Tatum, of course, would be my number one. But this is somebody that is responsible for essentially freeing you from the prison you put yourself in. Like the amount of stress and the exhaustion and the, going through the routines of hiding who you are takes such a toll on you. And to be able to bring that person that kind of woke you up from that onto a show that you do, he's coming onto a show that you're doing is just incredible. So, I mean, like, the guy's amazing. I had 40 subscribers when I first messaged him. And it was the first week we had started doing the show. And I said, you know what? I'm going to send him a message and let him know that, number one, to thank him for what he did. And number two, to let him know that I know I'm a nobody with 40 subscribers, but I would love to talk to him sometime if he had the time. And it was 5 minutes from me sending that message to him sending me a message back that just said, give me a time, I'll be there. That was it.
Cool.
I mean, there was no kind of, he's a down to earth guy. He doesn't have a false sense of self. He knows that, or the things that he talks about, he knows, and he wants to get them out there. And, but that's not me being free from that point is just the real tip of the iceberg there, because what happened to me after that initial coming out is what led me to spend a year in prison. Because,
oh, wow. Okay.
Right. Because,
what age? Keep me on the age, 25, because I like to
sure.
get a sense.
Sure.
25, 26, right?
Right. 25, 26. I was 20. I was 27, getting ready to turn 28 when I went to finally went to prison. And for the 2 years prior to that, what happened was once I came out, once I said the words, I'm gay and I'm atheist. Okay. I stopped being the Kyle that I had known all of my life. That Kyle was gone. That Kyle that had been with me for 25 years was poof, vanished.
What about your family? How did they see you? Were you different to them? Was it like a different person? Or?
I was fortunate. It's very strange, but I'm one of those rare people that I was very fortunate that I didn't lose anyone. In fact, I got a lot more support than I ever thought that I would. Nobody shunned me. Nobody treated me any differently. It's not something that we talk about. It's when we do Christmas or those things, everybody knows, but we just don't mention it. We don't make it an issue. Thankfully, I have a family that put me first and knows who I am, as a person,
right,
and isn't willing to lose that. And for that, I give them,
well, I would think I mean, you say that, and I totally hear you, but I would think that that's a pretty, like, a normal, the responses where people say, like, their family disowned them because of X, Y, Z. I can't even imagine that. I know, but I can't even imagine that. My mother would never disown me no matter what. If I said I killed 6 people, she'd be like, oh dear, let's talk about it. She just nothing.
Well,
there's nothing I could do.
Sure,
exactly. That's normal to me.
That's not the norm, unfortunately. I mean, you're right, it should be, but it's not. So I didn't have to go through that. My struggle, and I don't think that I would have made it out of that, honestly. I think that if that had been the case, if I'd have, if my family had
shunned you,
left me, I would be dead, definitely. Either by my own hands or the drugs. One of those two would have definitely taken me, and that's not lost on me one bit. But I couldn't deal with the adjustment of being the real me, because everything that I had been, everything that I was rooted in the Christian straight Kyle, and he's gone. So I couldn't deal, and I turned to. It started out. I turned to drinking, to weed, which led to cocaine and a really nasty cocaine habit. I mean, really bad cocaine habit, and because it got me to where I didn't think about it. I didn't care. I was, I was existing, and that was fine with me. I didn't have those thoughts that were depressing or made me angry. It just took me to another place. I would clean, because anybody that's done cocaine knows what I mean. Like you get on a mission, and you're focused on that mission, and nothing else matters. Nothing else in the world matters, and I like that. And that.
Was it just snorting coke, and how were you paying for it? Did you start dealing? Because it's expensive.
It is. That's what I did. That's eventually what led to me spending time in prison. Thankfully, I pled down to since it was my first thing. I pled down, so they didn't pop me with that. But yes, you get in that world, and eventually your habit is more abundant than your funds. You have way more habit than you do money to pay for it. And I got sent to Noose Correctional Institution for a year, and it changed my life. It's a weird thing, man. I wouldn't take back going to prison for anything. And that sounds strange, and it doesn't sound normal, but I learned how to be okay with me there in an environment that stereotypically you would think would be, well, it depends on what side of the coin you're on. Right before I went to prison, a couple of my really good friends said, "Oh, well, this is going to be like heaven for you, right? A gay guy going to prison." Oh,
gay guy. Fantastic.
Yeah. But also you get there's a stereotype that gay people get, all they're going to do is get beat up, and none of that could be farther from the truth. None of that could be farther from the truth. I actually had several people that I was in prison with once we were out, and so I keep in contact with some of them. A couple of them have said that the reason that I never got messed with. I never got, nobody ever harassed me. Nobody tried anything on me. And they said it's because from day one, I came in with that attitude of, this is who I am. If you don't like me, then, too bad. And
right.
That's how I am now. And I wouldn't have been there. I wouldn't have gotten that if I didn't go to prison. But I left that place a lot better than I came in, and it's just a series of unfortunate and fortunate events that lead me here now talking to you about the whole entire experience.
So you turn into an atheist, and then the atheism frees you up to accept your gayness. Is that kind of how it went down? But then at the same time, you start getting heavily into drugs.
Right. Yes.
And then going to prison is kind of like not necessarily a wake-up call, but how would you say it? And kind of sounds like a wake-up call, like
Sure. Wake-up call would be it was a combination of things. It was the shock of the environment, because to this day I'll never get the sound that gate made when it, or that that cell gate first made, with that first night when it clanked shut. I mean, that was just like
I can imagine.
So I'll never get that.
Because you were sentenced to what? You were sentenced to a year when that happened, or 2 years, or what?
I was sentenced to 24 months. Good behavior, all that stuff. You work your time down. So for when you go and you work for 10 hours a day every day, you get like so many hours off of your sentence. So I worked it down to where it wound up being a year. And it was a wake up call, but it was also the duration. Like if I would have just spent even 4 weeks, let's say, in jail or prison. I would have gotten out and went straight back into what I was doing. But the fact that I had to get used to me for a year, and I had time to really sit and think, because there are moments in prison where that's all you can do. You can't do anything. You're stuck in a location for a set duration of time, and you cannot leave even if you wanted to. Like, you just cannot move from that. So you're forced to sit there and be with yourself and think. And over the course of that year, that's what I needed. I needed to be able to sit down with my own thoughts, hash out who I was, and, you know, the way that my worldview was now. And that length of time allowed me to get everything that I needed lined up. And then that gate opened, and I haven't looked back since.
Okay, can I pause this somehow? Because my wife is trying to reach me, and she tried
Sure.
3 times. Okay, hold on. I'll be back in a sec. All right, back. You there?
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I know a lot. I know a lot of the story personally. I only spent one night in jail. But the drugs. Did you do recovery when you were, or was the year in prison enough to just not?
That counted as my recovery. I don't think that this is just my personal opinion, and it may even only apply to me, but therapy wouldn't have worked for me either. It was something that I had to get straight with myself, you know. And some people need the other person to talk to. For me, if I'd have done that, honestly, if I'd have went to therapy, it would just probably be me sitting there lying to, or trying to diminish the totality of the situation with somebody I didn't know, with me having to, be alone with my thoughts. That really forced me to go through them all, and that's what I needed. So it's different for everybody, but it just happened to work for me.
Right. So you never joined like NA or AA or anything like that?
No.
Okay. Because I was in that for a while. I was actually in rehab twice.
Yeah.
Second time was...
It definitely worked for some people.
Well, it didn't fully work for me until I became a Christian. Then I was fine in like 2001. But so you get out. What's that?
I was just going to ask, what would you say if I said that maybe Christianity became your new addiction? How would you respond?
It's I can see why somebody would think that, but it was more of, it's very similar to what you're describing. I was at war with myself, not necessarily because of any, but I was at war with myself. And then when I became a Christian, that war ceased. I started to have peace of mind. And when I had peace of mind, I didn't really need to drink anymore. And drugs is now like the furthest thing from my mind. Like, I would probably still, I shouldn't say this, but I would probably still smoke a joint every now and again. But you didn't hear me say that, and I'm saying that live.
There's nothing wrong with that, though. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but it's not something.
Talk about weed as a drug at all. Weed does so many. It has so many more benefits than it does negatives. And if somebody gets, you can't. Number one, if you smoke too much weed, you pass out with a bag of Funyuns in your lap. And if you drive while you're high, you just go too slow. And that's a statistical thing, actually. I said that as a joke, just joking, when we did a weed debate on my channel between Frankie from the Geek Room, yes, and SJ.
Stephanie was on that, wasn't she?
Yeah, but she actually went and looked it up, and she actually confirmed that I was right. That statistics shows that people actually drive way too slow when they're high. Like, that's it's backed up by statistics. So I thought that was pretty.
There you go. The thing with weed, I was actually I was actually more or less done with weed by the time I was in college because